What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Hopefully everyone had a good 4th. Enjoyed the fireworks, firecrackers, wherever you may be. No fireworks for your boy because the barge out on Lake Tahoe, or where I'm staying, is inclines in Nevada, sunk. Disaster struck. So all the fireworks were in the water. They had to close down the beaches, at least one of the main beaches. So there was no fireworks show. And I was in bed probably by about 9:30. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Maybe even played a little golf. Here's the game plan this week. I'm going to do a golf podcast right now, a little go low. We will get back to our regular scheduled programming. We'll do a football podcast later in the week. And then we'll be normal next week doing a bunch of football look-ahead stuff. Some of the teams, I know the 49ers rookies report like the 15th. So we're going to, not that practice doesn't start till early in the 20s, 22, 23, 24 with vets all around the league. But we're going to do some AFC, NFC West previews, and we'll just kind of work our way east over the next couple weeks. But this will be a golf podcast today. We will have a football podcast later in the week. Probably do a big mailbag, maybe react to some of those little stories here and there that have happened over the last couple weeks, but obviously a pretty mellow time. We only got one more golf major, which is the Open, which is next week. This week, the Scottish Open. LIV is playing at Valderrama in Spain. So that's, they've hosted the Ryder Cup before. LIV's been playing over there the last couple years. Sergio, I think, won it last year. He's, I think, playing in his 24th Open Championship because he got an invite because of where he finished. So we'll get ready for that. A little bit of a look ahead. The British Open, not the British Open, but the Scottish Open, which is one of the best fields in golf because everyone goes over there early, and the field is absolutely loaded. I mean, Rory won this tournament 2 years ago. Scottie plays in it. Ludwig, Morikawa. I mean, all the big guns. Xander. This is an awesome tournament. I mean, I'm a sucker for this, so we'll talk about that before we dive in to my friends, my partners, and the official ticketing app of this podcast. I actually was talking to someone the other day that said they went to a Dodger game, and they said it was awesome. And listen, you want to go to a game? Summer League? You want to go to you in Vegas? You want to go to one of these Summer League games? Football is not very far away. Every week I see like Scheffler post 9 more Sundays, and obviously college football starts the week before that, so it is going to be here before you know it. Thank you, Jesus. And other than that, anything you want to go to, a concert, a comedy show. I think my brother in a couple weeks is going to a concert. Use Gametime. Doesn't get any easier. You can search by the venue. You can search by the artist. You can search by the team. It's as easy as it gets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, big picture. They're going across the pond. My buddy that I play all the time with in Scottsdale, Jeff Fong, just went over there to Scotland. They were staying at the old course, and they played all around. And even though you're freezing and it's wet, he said it's incredible. I have never met a human being that has taken a golf trip to somewhere over in that area. Scotland, Ireland, obviously areas in the UK, that isn't blown away by the golf. Why? Because it's so different than what we're used to playing. It is extremely enjoyable to watch guys be able to play the ball on the ground. And I just played golf this morning in a mountainy course. Everything's in the air. And that's most American golf, right? You're hitting the ball, your approach shots, 2 greens are all airborne. And honestly, most of your chips are airborne. Completely different style of golf. And it's the one area, maybe beside like Bandon Dunes, where it can be a driving rainstorm, it can be insane winds, and it's really enjoyable to watch. I said at the Open, the U.S. Open, that in theory we like difficult courses. And the more I thought about it, because I was a little harsh, not that I don't appreciate how difficult Oakmont is. It's like, do I really want to watch guys struggle to shoot 4 or 5 over? And my initial reaction that Sunday was like, it kind of sucks. I don't need eagles every other hole. I mean, obviously what Augusta brings to the table, we're cool with because it's Augusta National that you can eagle 12, or you can eagle 13, you can eagle 15, you can birdie 17. I mean, they're just fireworks down the stretch. And you watch Oakmont, but as they all said, this is the hardest course in the world. This doesn't happen very often. And it's what has really made me appreciate this tournament. I would say one of the most vivid memories, non-Tiger, as a child in the 90s, was the John Vandervelt meltdown, where it felt like he was going to blow it, which he ended up doing it. He actually, ironically, the way we talk about the meltdown, he did make the playoffs, which is that aggregate 4-hole playoff in the Open Championship. But their courses don't look like anything we play. For those of you that have played Bandon Dunes, you get out there and you're like, this is such a unique experience. I can probably count on one hand how many times I played links golf. Most of us are just not around it. Every once in a while, an area, throughout America will have a links style golf course. But part of what makes this so special is it's completely guarded against, they need the weather. And luckily over there, the weather is a major, major factor. And I think these guys really appreciate kind of the difference. And that's why this week, the Scottish Open at the Renaissance Club is just, now one, you're not just, if you're going to fly over there, you might as well fly over there 10 days early, let your body clock acclimate, and then play in this tournament. But the last 2 years, Bob McIntyre won last year, which was really big. But 2 years ago, Rory won. And remember, he hit one of the best shots. I think it was on hole 18 on Sunday. He's probably ever hit in his career. It was incredible. It might have been on Saturday. No, I think it was on Sunday. And I just looked over the last 2 years, some of the names that were, even beside Rory winning, that were in the top 3 or 4. Last year, it was like Rory was 4th, Ludwig was 4th, Morikawa was 4th, and Ludwig kind of fell apart last year on Sunday. 2 years ago, Scheffler was tied for 3rd. So if you are going to bet this week, I was kind of looking. It's hard to get a feel for Rory. Obviously, in a week, they're playing at essentially his hometown. So it's like, I do think we are going to get a more motivated guy that we saw kind of over the course of the last 2 months, where he admitted this is not, no one's playing, psychologists from their couch. He's like, I haven't been trying that hard. It's kind of hard to grind on the range. Me and my brother were just talking about it, actually playing golf. It's kind of what makes Scottie so unique. Even Ted Scott's like, he doesn't really care about money. He's not. He made $65 million on the course last year. So I would say with Nike bonuses, he's the number 1 player in the world. All those wins. Let's just assume Scottie Scheffler made $80 million. And Ted Scott's like, I'm telling you, he does not give a shit. And clearly, when you just watch him go out and grind and play, now granted, his resume is smaller than Rory's, but Rory kind of admitted, I was trying to climb Mount Everest. I climbed Mount Everest, and how do I get motivated? Which, in a weird way, is actually relatable. Most human beings would be like Rory McIlroy. If they accomplished something they had tried to accomplish the majority of their life, I'm sure I'd be guilty of this. I'd probably take a deep breath for a couple years or a couple months at minimum. I think what we wanted out of Rory was like, could you be Tiger? Hell, Phil's still grinding at like 55 years old. Could you be could you be Tom Brady? Could you have that LeBron, how hard he works? No, we can question, like, does he mail in sometimes? But ultimately, like, we were holding him to that level, and he kind of admitted, like, I'm not really wired that way. I do hope we get a guy, again, won this tournament 2 years ago, not next week, but the Scottish Open, finished top 5 last year, and coming into next week where Shane Lowry, his childhood friend, won, and they got murals. I follow Lowry on Instagram. They got murals of his face. Obviously, Rory famously missed the cut, hit it out of bounds the first hole, was a complete disaster. I do think we will get a good version of him. I don't necessarily know this week. The only way to get plus odds on him, besides to win the tournament, I think he's like 6. Odds are subject to change, but I looked a little earlier. He's like 7-1. Would be the top 5. I don't feel great about it, but I do think Morikawa, Hovland, Fleetwood, you can all get plus odds on those guys to top 10 this week. I think getting momentum coming in. All right, folks, this is insane. For the first time ever, we've got a full-blown all-women's boxing mega event going down in New York City. 2 title fights, same night. Let's go. And if you're like me and love the action, DraftKings Sportsbook is where it's at. We're talking Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, the trilogy fight. Absolute legends. Katie's putting together her super lightweight belt on the line. And you know Serrano's bringing the heat. But don't sleep on the co-main event. Alicia the Bomb Bumgardner, explosive power, is taken on the undefeated WBA interim champ, Jennifer Miranda. That one's going to be fireworks, baby. And if you've never bet with DraftKings, it's super simple. Just pick who you think's going to win. It's that easy. And check this out. If you're new to DraftKings, throw down $5 and boom, you get $150 in bonus bets instantly. How wild is that? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use the promo code JOHN, that's JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-9-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsible on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus or eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. And the other cool part about this tournament is JJ Spawn, a little bit of a random winner, though he's had a really good season, but relative to the top dogs, plus, 120 to 1, no one saw that coming, including JJ Spawn. But for the most part, and I think I've pivoted a little bit, the U.S. Open, if they're playing at Oakmont or they're playing at Shinnecock, maybe a random guy could win. The Masters and the PGA Championship is kind of established. Rory, Bryson, Scottie, Xander, the big 6-7 Rahm. If Morikawa is playing well to be in the mix, Ludwig, you're going to get the big names all coming down the stretch. The U.S. Open, depending on the course, could add some variance, but these next couple weeks can definitely add variance because of the wind, because of the different shots you have to hit, because you can play it so many different ways. It's what made, I thought the John Deere Classic, and for anyone who's barbecuing and in, if you had a TV, wherever you were at, I think it's an easy little background noise. Obviously, the field's not great. A lot of the names on there, even for me, I love this shit. Pretty random. But one thing I will say about the John Deere Classic in Iowa, course looks sweet. That's one of those courses. We left the U.S. Open at Oakmont. I would never want to play that. I could be in Pittsburgh and someone texts me, hey, I'm a member here. You might just have to say yes to say you played Oakmont. But that would be, if I never played Oakmont in my entire life, who cares, right? It doesn't look like an enjoyable experience. It looks miserable. I'm watching that tournament in Iowa thinking, I would play that course a lot. That looks like a fun, tough, but like fair, enjoyable track. And think about random Brian Campbell. I looked today, who just won for the second time this year. Now, granted, he won the Mexico Open and the John Deere Classic. In his career playing golf, and he's been on and off the tour for about a decade, he has made under $4 million. To be precise, $3.476 million in his entire career playing professional golf on the PGA Tour. Now, it doesn't count the Korn Ferry, but his earnings on the PGA Tour. In 2025, he won 3.174. I did the math. 92% of his PGA Tour earnings have been this year. And if you look at his season, it's essentially been in 2 tournaments because he's missed half the cuts. He has not been very good, but it shows you if you're going to get hot and you're going to be in the mix, if you're a random guy like this, like JJ Spawn was going to play on the PGA Tour for a long time. He had finished second in multiple events this year. Hell, he went toe-to-toe with Rory. JJ Spawn had already made $15-20 million. Like, he was in the mix. He wasn't going away. Now, winning the U.S. Open changes the trajectory of his career. Right now, he's in the majors for a while. Obviously, when you win a major, you're always known as a major champion. So that puts him in a completely different level. But just winning a PGA Tour event changes your life. Winning 2 is a game changer. So Brian Campbell's a good example. They were showing his stats during the John Deere. He hits it as short and swings as soft as like any guy on the PGA Tour. His ball speed relative to like guys I was playing with today is the same. And this is the pushback always of like, well, we got to roll back the ball. We got to do this. Like Max Homa. Now, granted, Max has not had a good season. He has played extremely poorly for the standards of a guy that's a President Cupper, that's a Ryder Cupper, a guy that's won a ton on the PGA Tour, tough golf courses. But Max was right there in the mix. Right now, he didn't play well down the stretch, missed some putts, got a little squirrely off the tee. It was enjoyable to watch Max. For me, like, I was more dialed into that tournament than I would have on Sunday because of Homa. I don't know if I'm watching Lipsky and Brian Campbell duel it out while I'm on vacation, but we were kind of hanging out in the house Sunday. Went for an early morning walk. I'm like, you know what? I'll watch Homa because I kind of thought he was going to win. And watching Campbell hit one of the better shots down the stretch on that 4-5. I think it's hole 16, or 17. It was an incredible shot. Then he missed the putt, but it really cool to watch. And I think sometimes we get so caught up with Bryson and Rory and these guys that hit 350 yards. The name of the game isn't just hitting at 350 yards. You got to score. You got to get the ball into the hole. And clearly, Brian Campbell, in 2 moments when he's had an opportunity to win, he's won twice this year, and they've both been in playoffs. So what an incredible experience. And this is the peak of his life, which decent chance looking at his resume, it might be. Doesn't get any better. Because obviously JJ Spawn, best case scenario for a somewhat random guy, I'm a major champion. The next best thing, I won on the PGA Tour twice. Not once. Because listen, if you ever met a guy, you were playing with him, and he was 50, 60, however years old, and he said, I won on the PGA Tour, that'd be an incredible accomplishment. I don't give a shit. Beside the majors, you don't ask, like, well, what was the strength of field? Now, obviously, there are some tournaments that are cooler to win than others. Like, I won at Pebble Beach. I won at Torrey Pines. I won at the Players. But if you just met a guy and said, yeah, I won twice on the PGA Tour, you'd be like, holy shit, this guy can play. So congrats to Brian Campbell. The John Deere Classic, just an easy watch. One of those tournaments where, typically you'd find a guy like me being like shitting on it, like, that sucks. I'm going to watch the John Deere Classic. I was watching thinking like, this is a pretty good little tournament. Pretty good little tournament. And listen, not everything on the PGA Tour, which is having a great year from a rating standpoint, needs to be the Players. Needs to be Pebble Beach. Needs to be the Memorial. Obviously, most of those tournaments aren't even the majors. There's a different level. We all embrace what these levels are. And it's on now the new commissioner / CEO, whatever you want to consider him, the boss, kind of figure out the ebb and flow of this. And I would imagine he's going to have some ideas on how to change this. We know he's working hand in hand, with Tiger. And he spoke over the last couple of weeks. I don't think we talked about it last week, but he said what we all kind of know, that we're no closer to getting reunification, right? The one thing LIV's big on is this team element. And clearly the Tiger and kind of that group does not want to come back. And some of the guys, I saw Lucas Glover, who's, won a ton on tour, major champion, said, like, I don't ever want to play with those guys again. And I think he's not alone. He has a serious radio show, so he's willing to say it. Some guys believe that, and they're not going to kind of relent off that, which, listen, when you're in a business like golf that is so many individuals, your opinions are going to be all over the place. Like in football, for example, whenever they have the CBA, right? Who speaks for the players? Well, the rich guys, right? Why do you think, which was the right move, but in 2011, one of the biggest things they did was put a rookie scale. Like, we're not paying these guys $80, $90 million anymore. Giving these guys, what Matt Stafford and Ndamukong Suh and Jamarcus Russell, those guys getting those contracts in the 2000s. Who do you think was the driving force to change that? All the veteran players that were in charge in 2011, which, again, if I was in their shoes, the right business move. But, like, if they wouldn't have pushed for it, that wouldn't have changed. Now, there were some, mistakes. We're in the golf situation. The only thing they're talking about is, like, the unification, because the money's flowing at a crazy amount, right? The setup now with these elevated events where the small percentage of high-level guys, the money distribution, I mean, they don't even need to do the PIP, which was the dumbest fucking thing ever. Tiger barely played, and he was winning it every year. They just tried to equal what the LIV guys were making, because as we saw last week, Patrick Reed won $4 million, or a couple weeks ago. And it's like, you got to win a major to win $4 million. And that's why they did those elevated events to pay out, I think it's like 3.7 or 3.8. And second gets like 2.2. So it's like, it's all comes about money. You have some hurt feelings, but I've been beating the drum on this. None of us give a shit, right? None of us care. I just want to see the best fields in golf. I want to see these guys play together. It's what makes next week so cool. We get 4 times a year where you can see Rory, you can see Scottie, and you can see Bryson and John Rahm. Like, I want to watch those guys more often, and it does feel like we're a couple years away from that. Okay, let's before we take some of your guys' questions, LIV this week is in Valderrama. And I was looking actually last year, John Rahm for the first time. If I remember correctly, it was a little bit of a backdoor top 10, but it was when he kind of showed signs of life. I think he finished 7th last year at the Open. John Rahm won Valderrama, is in Spain. He's Spanish. You know, he grew up watching guys play this tournament. I mean, there's a Legend 97 Ryder Cup. Sergio won here last year for the LIV event. This course is sweet. And I do think that John Rahm, who top 10 streak actually broke in Dallas, to me, if he plays well, which I would expect him to do, he's a guy I like a lot next week. I mean, he's a guy that I plan on hammering for top 5 and top 10. If he's in the mix this week and playing well, I don't care enough, whether he wins or loses. You don't just lose a golf tournament, but like if he finishes 4th or 7th, it would mean the same to me. But he's a guy that I like a lot going into Royal Port Rush. And the other guy is Tyrrell Hatton. Tyrrell Hatton's a guy. I think both those two guys, if they are playing well this week, they are auto hammers for me going into the Open to top 5 and top 10. I mean, Hatton's played well this year in the majors. Obviously, John Rahm did as well. Was right there in the mix with 9 holes to go against Scottie at the PGA Championship. To me, Bryson, when it comes to not as much Valderrama, but when they get to the Open in a week, that can be hard for him because his style is very American driven. And with the Open, one thing being the scientist, like one thing that makes John Rahm such a special player, and I would say the same thing for Hatton, is they are old school golfers. Like Tyrrell Hatton and obviously John Rahm would have been awesome players in the 70s, would have been awesome players in the 90s because they got all the shots. And even John Rahm, like he's like, you say I can't hit a draw. Like he can hit a draw. And I just think they can work the ball both ways. Their comfortability playing in different styles, in different weather, like that's can be a problem for Bryson because you can't scientifically hack how hard the weather is. The greens aren't as fast. It's all based on wind, rain, and water really fuck him up. So Bryson is a guy this stretch where I kind of stay away. It doesn't mean that if things break his way, he can't dial in. Wouldn't shock me if he plays well in Valderrama. But I think going for the Open Championship, I love hammering him. And I've made a lot of money on Bryson over the last 2 years. But relative to LIV this week, don't hate him to be in the mix. But in terms of playing at Royal Port Rush, I struggle with him in the Open. I mean, historically, he's never played that well. I just think it's really, really difficult for him. Just he's got a lot going on, right? Where John Rahm could just pick up my set of clubs, go out and play anywhere, and just be comfortable. Why? Because he's a player, an old school player in the sense of like he's much more of a feel player. I remember watching something at Arizona State where they do this drill where you hit to different yardages based on feel, and the coach would be like 90 yards. And then there's no like 90 yards. You just have to do it on your own. And that's why I think, I wouldn't shock me at all if John Rahm wins at Royal Port Rush. So excited to watch these guys. To me, Hatton and Rahm are the two guys I'm all over at Valderrama. Okay, let's answer some of your questions. At GoLowPod is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs and get your questions answered here on this little old podcast. I'm 21 years old. I've been golfing for 3 years. I've been addicted since day one. Feel you, dog. Last year, I bit the bullet and spent upwards of $2,500 on my bag. Completely worth it, in my opinion. I play every day and can afford it, but it's definitely not easy. A lot of fucking money, and I'm 21. It is. I hear you. Here's my problem. My dad recently moved across the country to Texas. He wants me to fly my clubs when I come to see him. I instantly turned that down, stating I'm not risking my clubs like that because they mean a lot to me. I've heard countless stories of airlines losing or ruining clubs. he looks at it this way. He looks at it in the way that I don't want to golf with him. He did kind of get me into the game, and I can sense some animosity coming from him. My view of the situation is I spent a bunch of money, worked really hard for my clubs. You would know as a golfer, you grow a connection almost with your clubs. I agree. 2 questions based off this information. Do you fly with your clubs? If yes, how? Who is the asshole in the situation? Shoot me straight. I fly everywhere with my clubs. And I don't know how much it costs. I don't remember. I don't want to say it's like $100, but I have like a big hard carrying case. They have multiple different carrying cases, right? I remember my dad like 20 years ago had a softer one. I got a hard one that basically is like a piece of luggage shaped like a golf club. And I throw my golf clubs in there, and it's pretty sturdy. I've flown them to all across the country, to Hawaii. I flew them here with me to Sacramento. I don't hesitate to fly my clubs and have never had an issue. And then I also use, because Southwest, you get a free bag, but I throw clothes and shoes and shit in there. So you almost use it like a luggage. And I have never had an issue. I've never lost a club. Now, I'm flying my clubs once or twice a year. So I'm not super aggressive with flying them out. I think if you see some of the clips on like social media, it could really scare you. But I would say most people that my friends and who I play with have flown their clubs all over the place and never had an issue. I completely understand. I didn't have $2,500 when I was 21. I would not have had that much money. The clubs I played with at 21 were my clubs from when I was like 15 years old that I basically played with until my late 20s, until I bought a set of clubs. Might even have been early 30s. I mean, I had the same set of clubs for like 15 years. So I completely understand. You spend a boatload of money. But from my experience, I don't speak for everybody. I have never had a bad experience flying my clubs. Never had them broken. But I also I don't want to shoot you. It wasn't outrageous. I mean, at most maybe a couple $100. Maybe, and again, I've had this thing now for 5-6 years, so maybe with inflation, it's more money. But if you get a hard case, traveling case for golf clubs, it basically stands up straight. You can roll it. It's easy to use. I honestly have never had an issue. And if anything, it's benefited me because I've been able to put other stuff. I mean, I've played in Tennessee. I've played in Texas. Obviously, I flew into Arizona before I moved there. I flew back to California. I've flown to Hawaii. I have no issues, and I don't hesitate flying them. But I totally understand where you're coming from. I would say if you get the right case, you won't worry about it. Need some coffee. I got up this morning about 5:30. We actually played. We were the second group off this morning, and we played behind Mav McNeely's dad. And I guess Mav McNeely was out. We played Incline Village. If you're ever up in this part of Tahoe, nice little resort course. It's not that long. It's a little tight, but I guess Mav, I'm sure he's in the Scottish Open, was out there a couple days ago, just dominating this course. For the mailbag, for some reason, the entire rollback initiation infuriates me. Not because I care how these guys are hitting it, but because it feels like the PGA and their associated media are calling for the sweeping change to a problem that, one, they created, and two, will have no effect on the actual issue. This is a TV broadcast problem, not an issue with the distance off the tee. Nobody would have any clue a guy is hitting a pitching wedge or an 8-iron into a green unless the screen told them. It does not matter. What we want is variability and uncertainty of the outcomes. That's why it's difficult. That's why difficult major setups are appealing. Not because Rombo hit at 305 or 325. Secondly, the rollback only hurts the short hitters. Those guys would have even longer club in their hand. Good luck with your 4-iron into every par 4. It feels like smaller greens, more tees, and strategically placed trees would be much better equalizer. Curious on your thoughts. Well, if I was playing their role, what are you going to do every course they play? Shrink the greens? That's not the course. The greens are the greens. And the thing with trees, anyone who's played an older course knows a huge advantage they have are their old trees that are tall. Well, some of these, like look at Oakmont, there's not a tree on the course. So you can't like just add. I mean, technically you could if you're like Augusta, but I do think it gets really expensive. Also, most of these courses, I mean, I guess there are some public, right? Torrey Pines is public, TPC Scottsdale is public, the Players is public, but a lot of these courses, Pebble's public. So even if they're public or private, the majority of the play at TPC Scottsdale, at Torrey Pines, at Memorial, at Oakmont, out wherever, is not these guys. It's me, it's you, it's public courses, it's whoever. At these private courses, at Memorial, at you name it, it's the members, right? So those guys, like Oakmont's a bad example. That's an outlier. But most of these other courses, those courses play to us, not to those guys. Like Maverick McNeely, if you had to, I shot 80 today, and I triple bogeyed hole 17, disaster. Should have been much better. But I looked at my brother about hole 7 or 8. I'm like, Matt McNeely would fucking destroy this place. And not because he's just hitting super long and we're in the mountains, because like those guys are destroying every place. So there aren't many courses that you can put a top 100 PGA Tour player, let alone the top 30 or 40 guys, that they're not going to eat alive. And even if it's long, like Colin Morikawa and Scottie Scheffler, even if they have a 5 or 6 iron in their hand, at worst, they're going to be 30 feet and 2-putt. And some of the times it's going to roll into 15, 10 feet and they're going to make the putt. So these guys are so good. It isn't Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino and the days of guys hitting 4 iron from 190. Those days are dead. They're dead. We just got to embrace it. There's not much you can do to roll it back, especially if it carries into us. Just let it be. It is what it is. Now, if you tell me, and this is what I've always assumed, are they going to be hitting it? Let's say the average distance on tour is 308 or 310. Well, in 15 years, is that number going to be 330? If you tell me that, and then the top guys are hitting at 370, then yeah, if 30% of the PGA Tour is hitting at 370 or 360, yeah, we'd have a problem. It just would be too easy, most of these courses. I do think we've topped out. I do think we've topped out. Could be wrong, and maybe that would be their argument. But my take is I don't think it ever actually happens. Like the majority of people, I'm a big DeChambeau guy. I've been following him his entire career from the beginning when he used to wear the Ben Hogan hat. My question is for you. If you had to bet over under 4.5 majors he finishes his career with. Well, he's got 2. And obviously watching him the last couple of years, it's hard. I would say he's a lock. I would bet my life savings he wins another one, unless he has a major injury. If he's healthy for the next 5 years, DeChambeau is a lock to win another. I think winning multiple majors is just difficult, right? And when you look at the guys he has to beat, assuming Rory keeps trying, Scottie's in the peak of his powers, John Rahm is like trying to get back there. I would imagine we will have a player or two that's young kind of come up. Hovland's kind of figuring it out. Xander has had a weird year because he's not healthy, but Xander's still really good. That 4.5 number, if you told me Bryson DeChambeau ends his career with 4, believable. I would say that 4 or 5. I'd say that's a good over-under. I'd say that's a good over-under. I'd say it'd be between 4 and 5. Neither would shock me. I think if he ends his career with 5, it'd be pretty impressive. It's just hard to win him. Because even when you're in the mix, like his second major probably shouldn't have gone his way, right? And I guess he was right there against Xander in the PGA last year. It's kind of chasing him a little bit, I guess. He's played a lot better at the Masters the last couple of years. I wonder if you told him this. You could have 4, but one of them will be the Masters. So you have 2 U.S. Opens, you win the Masters, and you'll probably win a PGA. Or you could have 4, and you'd be like a Koepka. You get 3 U.S. Opens and 2 PGAs. What would you rather take? I think being a historian, I think you take. I'd rather have 4 and 1 be the Masters, especially after I've already won multiple U.S. Opens. So I think the thing that will change his life, because it does feel like he's going to win a PGA, it feels like the PGA Championship, one of these, like he's going to win it. Can he win the Masters? Because if Bryson DeChambeau wins the Masters, I think that changes the way, because he's already a Hall of Famer, won a bunch, multiple majors, ton of played well in majors. To me, can he win them? I think the big question on over-under majors is, can he win the Masters? And I think watching the last couple of years, the answer is yeah, he can. And if I was a betting man, I think his Masters would be at 0.5. I'd probably take the over. I think Bryson DeChambeau eventually wins the Masters. Question for the bag. Currently watching the Open from 14 on the Golf Channel. It's strange to watch Rory and Ricky paired together over 10 years ago. What's even more strange is the dramatic change in equipment and outfits. Ricky's orange Puma gear. Feels like a lifetime ago. My question is this. Do you foresee the changes coming in professional golf in general when it comes to emerging stars, LIV, PGA, new commissioner equipment, and any new brands emerging? As a Travis Matthews snob, I'd love to see a more affordable golf apparel brand. It's a struggle out there on the streets. Oh, big Travis Matthews guy. That's a good question. I think inflation hit a lot of different areas hard. I would say no area has hit harder than golf. Obviously, golf courses, depending on where you live, I mean, the shitty $50 courses all doubled. The $100 courses all went to $200. The $200 courses went to $400. You know, the clothing went up 30, 40, 50, 80%. I don't think, at least in the foreseeable future, I guess a huge recession could happen. But seeing that type of stuff is going to come back to earth, I do think, and I'd put a longer horizon on this. There will be some sort of reunification over the next 5 years. You know, I think people were hoping for it being next year, a couple years ago. Clearly not happening. LIV's not going anywhere. But one thing that will be very interesting is their contract. And like when Koepka's contract ends, does it come back? You know, DJ's contract ends, does he retire? What does Bryson do? He's already openly talked about he's in negotiations. I mean, he's their most important guy. Rahm just signed last year, so he's got a 4-year contract. What happens with some of those older guys? You know, Liv's going to have some open. It's Sergio, Poulter, Lee West. Are they just going to play till they're Louis, till they're like 55? I don't know. So I would guess, I've said this before, what I would do, and this is the problem because the PGA Tour guys don't want to give in. Like if I'm the new commissioner, it's like, hey guys, this is about the business model. I am going to lift every suspension. Like Lee Westwood, Sergio, that doesn't matter. Those guys don't even want to play. But hey, Bryson, do you want to play at Pebble Beach? Do you want to play at Torrey Pines? Hey, John Rahm, you live fucking 5 minutes away. Do you want to play the Waste Management, which is your home tournament, which Rahm has talked about? Is hard for him to drive by and Frank Lloyd Wright and realize, like, I don't get to play that tournament. You're allowed to. Like, open that tournament to the all the Florida guys. Do you guys want to play the Florida? Do you guys want to play the Arnold Palmer? Do you want to play the Honda? They'd probably say no. You want to play the players? Maybe now you give the players, but like give the option to do that. That's how I would start. Now, Tiger, who is, I mean, here's the problem. We all answer to somebody, right? Whether it's in your home or whether it's in business. I don't care who you are. 99.99% of business owners kind of have someone, even if they're not quote unquote above them, the person they do business with that's by far the most important, that if ever something changed would dramatically impact them. So even though this guy's the CEO / commissioner, like he's going to do something that Tiger doesn't want. Every picture I've seen with this guy, Tiger's right there. Do you think Tiger would have okayed it? Like Tiger's a huge driving force to this operation, especially now that his career physically is kind of over. So to me, he has a huge influence. Like Arthur Blank is, you know, guys like that are just looking at the numbers. Tiger kind of adds business sense. I mean, he's a billionaire, but like what we want as players. And he speaks for the group of like, yeah, you know, he's making it difficult for the unification. Like, I don't think he's disagreeing with Lucas Glover. You guys left, so be it. That was your choice. We're here. So they would probably look at me. You recommend lifting the suspensions? Double middle fingers. No way. That would be what I would do. Or maybe even this, maybe not a full lift of a suspension. Hey, any two events, any two PGA Tour events, any of you guys want to play? Rahm, Hatton, Bryson, DJ, Koepka, obviously, all the young guys. Joaquin Neiman, who's won at Riviera before. You're welcome to play if you want to play. If you guys don't have a LIV event going, that's so easy. This doesn't need to be that difficult. Like, everyone's got their money. Everyone got rich. Everyone's rich. Hell, Brian Campbell's made $3 million. Brian fucking Campbell, $3.1 million this year. $3.1 million. Make it easier. That's what I would do. My guess is, though, that's not going to happen. Did you say recently on a pod that you used Turo on a trip? Any issues? I've used it multiple times. There's no free ads, but it's basically just, instead of a rental car, it's you rent the car through someone else and you can pick whatever car you want. And it's better deals sometimes than Hertz or Avis. And you get off the plane and you walk to, typically, sometimes they drop it off right in front of you. Sometimes you pick it up at the parking lot. I've used it before in Arizona when I wasn't living there. I've used it in Nashville. I've used it in Reno. Also, to the guy that asked me about the clubs, I flew my clubs a month ago to Reno with me, and I played here with my brother-in-law, Matt. So Turo's been, I know a lot of people that use it, doesn't get any easier. Okay, last question. Greetings from Dallas. Although he'd never do it, do you think Tiger would be able to contend if he agreed to ride in karts, specifically majors? I ask this because you always hear other pros state that he can still hit all the shots. I would say no. One, he's not playing enough. So his game, it's impossible to be dialed at 50 years old at the level in which he has to compete when he's not able to practice. Obviously, now that he tore his Achilles, but even before he tore his Achilles, I do think the shattering of the ankle when he flipped the Genesis ended his career. Obviously, he played after that, but I mean, before that injury, I would say 100% Tiger was going to win again. I mean, he had won the Masters in 19. He had almost won the British Open in 2018. He had won the Tour Championship in 2018. He had gone toe-to-toe with Brooks in 2018 at the PGA Championship. Like, he wasn't Tiger Woods of 2002 or 2006 or 1998, but he was fucking good. And I think that injury derailed the next 5 years. Now, maybe by this time, he physically wouldn't have been the same, maybe other injuries. But I do think 2020, 2021, 2022, Tiger Woods 100% would have won again. Regular event, potentially another major, potentially maybe two majors. Because how smart he was, because how good he was. I think he still has all the shots if he's on the range. Again, before he tore his Achilles. But I don't think, even with a cart, I just don't think so. He's just not as crisp. And I think if you were having a cocktail with him, even as prideful as he is, he would admit that, which is sad. I mean, it's really sad. I mean, the guy's lived about 50 lives. So I'm just glad that we got to witness 2019. And then sadly it ended on that. Was it a rainy day? I don't even know if it was a rainy day, but I doubt it was rain. I don't think it was. It was just that hill, in early, was January or February of 2020. It's never been the same. And it never will be the same. And that's why I think he's, in a weird way, unofficially kind of retired at this point. So, yeah, we'll have a podcast out later this week, and enjoy the summer. Talk soon. See you.